We are joined by executive producer, director, and writer Derek Sinefranz, and executive producer and actor Mark Ruffalo, who is nominated for Best Lead Actor in a Limited Series or Movie. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
There's a lot to talk about this show, which is based on Wally Lamb's 1998 novel. But before we get there, we have a clip from, I know this much is true. We'd love to have you guys come around and take a look at it, and then we're going to talk about the show. So here is a clip.
Remember when you used to take your shoes and socks off and wade into the water? And you showed me the river of the water of life, clear as crystal, flowing forth from the throne of God and the Lamb. Will you do me a favor, Dominic? Yeah, what? Sure. Anything. Will you get a jar of water from the river and bring it back to me? What do you want that for? Because I want to wash with it. I feel like if I wash with it, it would help me heal my infection. I'm unclean. That looks good, buddy. What? Your wrist. Looks like it's healing. In my brain. I think if I wash with the river water, it'll help heal my brain.
A very powerful clip from a very powerful limited series, 6 episodes. Mark, as we saw in that clip, and as people know who've seen the show, you play twins here. You play Dominic and you play Thomas, his mentally challenged brother, in a what is a sprawling story of generational trauma, family reconciliation, a lot of pain, and hope and forgiveness. I say that without giving away anything. What attracted you to this role?
One brother is living with schizophrenia, and the other is basically his caretaker. I guess what attracted me to it was just how universal stories of family are, and how much we have to take responsibility for some people in our family sometimes. Ultimately, the redemptive sort of transcendence of a person and their past and their conditioning and their legacy. I was really moved by that kind of story, and brotherhood, what that means, how deeply connected we are to our siblings, and how kind of wrought with drama and pathos and love and compassion those relationships are.
One of the things I found about when I was watching the series, and I had read the book years ago, is the complexity of both the characters. Thomas, obviously, with his schizophrenia, and as we saw, the harm he does to himself in this story that's set in the early 90s, just around the time of the first Gulf War. But what also is interesting is Dominic, because Dominic is he's kind of a sloppy character. There's been obviously issues in his own family, his own sense of loss, losing his daughter, his wife, and trying to find out who his real father is. Derek, adapting the novel for the miniseries, for the limited series, what were some of the discussions you had with Mark about how you wanted to approach him playing these two characters?
Yeah, I mean, the first discussion we had when Mark asked me to do it, I think 5-6 years ago. My real worry was how to pull off this twin. How to pull off the twinness of these two people.
Well,
and I didn't want to
say for 1 second here, you guys pulled that off amazingly.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't want it to be we didn't want it to be a trick, we didn't want it to be a visual trick. I find oftentimes when I see twins, one actor playing two characters on the screen, I'm always looking for the scene, I'm always looking for where it goes, and it's hard to make it feel connected. And I didn't want to get involved in some technical trick. So, but what I'm more interested in is performance and people and characters. And so we started thinking, like Dominic and Thomas, they're identical twins, and when they're born, they look exactly the same. But they have 40 years of life experience and choices, and who we meet when we meet these guys when they're in their 40s, they're two different people. They don't look the same. So Mark and I talked very early on about incorporating a process where he would be able to become two different people. And we were, Mark and I were just always on the same page with that approach, with that commitment. Mark and I both come from Italian-American households. We both, have experience with mental illness in our lives. And, we both have this commitment to family in the movies and in the stories that we tell. And so it was just, honestly, it was one of the great collaborations I've ever had in my life, working with Mark on this.
Well, one of the things you saw with this, and you guys have an incredibly deep bench of other actors involved, Melissa Leo, Juliette Lewis, many involved in this. Mark, I have to ask you, and I'm sure you've had to tell this story a million times, but how did you do it, going from Dominic, who is distinctly not only one persona of a character, but a physicality, to Thomas, who is a very different one, and you guys weren't trying to play some CGI sleight of hand. You were doing this for real. How did you pull it off?
It was really a collaboration across the board. But as far as the and then of course I had Gabe Fazio there, who was playing opposite me. When I was playing Dominic, he played Thomas, and when I was Thomas, he played Dominic. And that was a design that Derek really wanted. He wanted an actor that that I could play with, that would come to it with as much commitment as I was on the other side. So it really made it a lot less difficult. The physical stuff we stopped for 6 weeks so that I could gain 30 pounds, and that really helped with the character.
So you shot all the stuff as Dominic first, and then you guys hit the pause button for 6 weeks, and you came back as Thomas?
Yeah, so we shot all Dominic stuff. We stepped away so that Derek could do the Italians, Grandpa Domenico, and that part of the story. While they were shooting that, I was packing it on, and by the time I came back, and I was entering Thomas's world, which was paranoid, and distinction between reality and fantasy was wildly blurred, I was going deeper and deeper into his vulnerability and just the qualities that make Thomas who he is.
Clearly, you've appeared in a lot of big budget movies, the Avengers franchise, obviously, and Thor, working with a lot of technology. What is the difference in the kind of energy and the involvement when you're working with another actor who's playing that role with the intensity that you were when you were playing that role off that role? How is that different for you as a part of your creative process?
I mean, oddly, it's not that different than acting with another actor. It was different. A lot of times when I'm doing this, the CGI for the Hulk, I'm either by myself or I'm with a stand-in. A lot of it is shot. While we're shooting the movie, but a lot of it is also done after the movie. And I did a lot of that by myself. I wasn't with a lot of the actors, and I did it. So that's harder to do. It's not as quite as vibrant or alive, or you're not being thrown things that are surprising, and so it isn't quite as spontaneous.
Derek, what was it like? Were you, during that 6 weeks when you guys were off shooting other elements of the series, Mark came back as Thomas, significant weight gain, clearly in a different frame of mind, literally and figuratively. What was that like for you as a director, and was it different than what you were expecting him to come back like?
I mean, of course, I think expectations for me as a director are the most dangerous place to be. I believe in preparations, not expectations. I try to prepare myself for discoveries. I don't expect anything. I have no idea when I'm going to make a movie, if it's going to work or not. all I do is I have questions and I set up kind of instigations to see what will happen. So in that 6 weeks, I'll just break it down a little bit. I would call Mark every other day or every day and talk to him and see how he was doing. And he was miserable. He was very excited because to be Thomas, to be able to eat, because he was on like, to be Dominic, he was on like 1,000-calorie a day diet. So he was starving himself. And so that physicality of Dominic created this hangry, kind of angsty character, this guy Dominic, who has his own mental struggles, I'd say. So anyway, Mark was really excited to eat pasta, to eat donuts, to be able to feast. But after a couple of days, I think that lost its luster pretty quick, and Mark was miserable. I would call him, and he was just gorging himself on food, and he kept asking me if he could just wear like a puffy suit or something.
You were going to get the sumo suit?
Yes, he was going to get the sumo suit. But that's one of the things. I love those Avenger movies, but what I wanted to do with Mark is put him into this realm. I wanted to get out of any kind of stage. I wanted to get out of a studio. I wanted to get out of a green screen. I wanted to bring everything into real life.
Yeah.
As a director, that's what I'm interested in, is behavior as much as I am as I am interested in performance.
I read once that you said that the way you saw Dominic in the series, you saw him as a guy who was more interested and concerned about his brother than he was about himself. His sense of obligation, and also his sense of, as we learn, sense of guilt, shame, and other things playing into this. As we close, guys, I wanted to get a sense from both of you. I don't want to give away the show because I think it's such a beautiful piece of art that I think people have to watch it in its entirety to understand its conclusion. But I wanted to know, do you feel like you were ultimately successful in achieving that goal with this character? And I'll start with you, Derek, and then I'd like to know from you, Mark, if you think so.
I would say that making the show was one of the great blessings of my life. I felt I was overwhelmed with joy, and every day that I was shooting, mostly to be shooting with such a great cast led by Mark, such a great team, with all my other producers and HBO, looking over us, and we were absolutely allowed to explore as deeply and intimately as we could inside of ourselves and we were able to look into our own relationships and to our own family relationships and to our own family histories and kind of put something that felt very human to us up on the screen.
Mark?
Like Derek, it was probably, it was the most gratifying and challenging thing I've ever done in turns. Was it successful? All I know is in, the 20-something years that I've been doing this, I've never had so many revered artists, actors, writers, directors reach out to me after watching it. And that's really the high point as far as I think what you can achieve with something is how your peers see it. And so many people saw it as such an important piece of work, and that was humbling, and it was also incredibly gratifying to me. I know for a fact that this cast and this crew put every ounce of their heart and soul and being and history and self into this work. Many people have been singled out for doing career performances, career best performances. Some of them were discovered, like Phil, who is an absolute discovery in it. And I measure the success of it by that. And I learned a long time ago, we don't have any control over what happens to something once it comes into the world. What we have control over is how we do it, the grace that we do it with, the love that we do it with, and the quality of the experience. And for that, I would say it was beyond my wildest dreams of success.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us.